everybody. This is Coach Joey Brockoff, and welcome to This Week in Slidell. The Pope John Paul Jaguars had 2 wins last week. They defeated STA 1-0, and they defeated North Lake Christian 4-1. This week, on Tuesday, they will travel to Christ Episcopal School. On Wednesday, they host Newman, and on Friday, they host McMahon. The Salmon Spartans dropped both their games last week, losing to George Washington Carver 3-0 and losing to New Orleans Military and Maritime 7-0. This week on Tuesday, they travel to Chalmette. Thursday, they host McMain, and Saturday, they host St. Aug. The Slidell Tigers dropped their game to Mandeville 1-0 and tied Hammond 1-1. This week, on Tuesday, they travel to Ponchatoula, and on Friday, they will host the Covington Lions. And the North Shore Panthers, they swept their games this week, defeating Ponchatoula 2-1, defeating Hammond 5-0, and defeating Fontainebleau 2-0. This week, on Tuesday, they travel to St. Paul's. On Friday, they will host Hammond, and Saturday, they will host West Jefferson. The Pope John Paul Lady Jaguars won both their games last week, defeating STA 7-2 and defeating North Lake Christian 4-0. This week on Thursday they host Newman, and on Saturday they will host Covington. The Salmon Lady Spartans dropped all 3 of their games this week, losing to Chappelle 8-0, losing to Pearl River 5-0, and they lost to New Orleans Military and Maritime 3-1. This week, on Tuesday, they travel to Chalmette, and on Thursday, they host Walker. The Slidell Lady Tigers started off the week by dropping their game to Mandeville 5-0, but bounced back to defeat Hammond 7-0 and defeat West Feliciana 2-0. This week, they travel to Ponchatoula on Tuesday. On Friday, they host Covington, and on Saturday, they will host Chappelle. And the North Shore Lady Panthers split their games last week. They defeated Ponchatoula 3-0, but dropped their game with Fontainebleau 4-2. This week, on Tuesday, they travel to SSA. On Friday, they will host Hammond, and on Saturday, they will host St. Joseph's Academy. The First Baptist Christian Eagles, they will play Jehovah Jireh on Thursday. The Pope John Paul Jaguars, they lost their game to Ben Franklin 85-71. This week, they will play Phoenix on Tuesday. They will host Sarah T. Reed on Wednesday, and they will host Doyle on Friday. The Salmon Spartans, they lost their game with Martin Luther King 59-51, but defeated Grave Baptist 51-48. On Tuesday, they will host John F. Kennedy, and on Friday, they travel to Lakeshore for their district opener. The Slidell Tigers, they had 2 wins last week. They defeated Douglas 62-57, and they defeated Pearl River 72-51. This week, they travel to Venado, and on Friday, they have their district opener when they host the St. Paul's Wolves. And the North Shore Panthers, they defeated Hahnville last week 72-55. This week on Tuesday, they host Hannon, and on Friday, they have their district opener at home against Vanderbilt. The First Baptist Lady Eagles, they were defeated by Pope John Paul 40-7 last week. This Friday, they travel to St. Martin's. The Pope John Paul Lady Jaguars last week lost to Family Christian 49-35 and defeated First Baptist Christian 40-7. On Monday, they travel to Sacred Heart. Wednesday, they host Sarah T. Reed. And on Thursday, they travel to Our Lady Academy in Bay St. Louis. The Salmon Lady Spartans, they won both their games last week, defeating Franklinton 52-5 and defeating Laranja 65-43. On Monday, they will go to the Walker tournament and play Bolton And on Friday, they will travel to Lakeshore. The Slidell Lady Tigers, they defeated Hammond 54-37 last week, but lost that game at North Shore 61-52. And on Wednesday, they will travel to Sophie B. Wright. And the North Shore Lady Panthers lost that game with Mandeville 58-46, defeated Slidell 61-52. This week, they will host West Jefferson on Wednesday and host Mandeville on Friday. And that's all the action we got for this week. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and this is Coach Joey Brokoff, and I'll see you at the ballpark.